We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves. We making major moves. We going all in, like we got nothing to lose. We making moves. We making major moves.
What is up, everybody? I'm Mr. Man. Welcome back to my channel. Remember this face. I'm one of the only people on YouTube that I see rocking a Spider-Man mask here, dropping finance information here regarding cryptocurrency, real estate, the whole financial industry itself. Today we're going to jump into the M2 money supply and the M0 money supply, and people out there like this individual, like these individuals here, complaining that XRP is 60 cents. Meanwhile, there's so much bullish news coming out of Ripple on a daily basis. And why isn't the price of XRP going up? Good question. People say things like this. Investors are tired of holding 3 years and still 60 cent. Dump it and move forward towards something better. Good luck to you, Alex. That's all I gotta say. Anyways, let's jump into why XRP is not moving based off of Ripple's bullish news. Keeping in mind, Ripple and XRP are two separate entities. If Ripple news that came out in the news was fantastic for Ripple, why doesn't the price of XRP move? If it did do that, XRP would be a security at that point and wouldn't have gone through the whole court case and gone through all of this. XRP is not a security. Ripple and XRP are different. When Ripple does something fantastic, should Ripple IPO, the Ripple IPO stock or share would go bullish at that point. XRP does its own thing. What Ripple does not affect XRP. The reason XRP, let's just jump back here. We're going too far ahead of ourselves here. Okay, so here we are on Wikipedia. We're going to jump into the money supply here, okay? So you have M0. In some countries, such as the UK, M0 includes bank reserves, so M0 is referred as the monetary base or narrow money. MB is referred to as the monetary base. M1 is not included? Bank reserves are not included in M1, okay. So M2 represents M1, and close substitute for M1. M2 is a broader classification of the M1 money supply. The M2 money supply is the transactions that you and I would go through our lives doing at that point. Transaction, tappity tap tap, buy a new car, buy a new house, get some shoes, get a new haircut, get some grill, whatever the heck you're into at that point. That's your M2 money supply. What is the M2 money supply? The Federal Reserve estimates that the total money supply, including all the cash people have on hand, plus all the money deposited in checking accounts and savings accounts and other short-term saving vehicles such as CDs or certificates of deposits, retirement account balances, and time deposits above 100,000 are emitted from the M2. The Federal Reserve tracks a separate money supply number called M1 that includes currency that is in people's pockets in their checking accounts and savings accounts. The money that is deposited in time deposits and money market funds, or MMFs, is not counted in M1s. Okay? So my philosophy is that M1 or M0 and M2 and M1 gotta be slowing down. Okay? They have to be slowing down. The central bank's money supply, the base money supply, the money of money has slowed to a halt. The M2 money supply, or M1 and M2, are slow to a halt. You and I of the world are not out there tappity tap tap, swiping, insert debit card and putting your PIN code number to buy stuff. You're not out there buying houses. You're not out there buying properties. You're not out there buying real estate. You're not out there buying cars. You're not out there buying new tires. You're struggling to buy groceries. You're struggling to buy clothes. You're struggling to get fuel for your car. You're struggling. Dial on, all right? You're struggling. Money is not moving. It's frozen in bank account here, in bank account here, in person's under their mattress, in person's savings account behind me there. It's not moving. Okay? So if it's not moving, why should the price of XRP be moving? XRP is an FX tool. It swaps currency to currency. There's no legislation yet for cross-border digital information for swapping FX from Canada to US, from US to Sweden, from Sweden to Congo, from Congo to Nigeria, from Nigeria to Holland, from Holland to Japan, from Japan to Australia. There's no cross-border regulations yet for data, and for monetary data either. All right? So things might be moving slow from fiat to fiat cross-border using SWIFT, right? But there's no intermediary like XRP being utilized yet. So why should the price scale up? Why? Tell me why it should. Why should it be higher than 60 cents? But be realistic. Don't be like those people there and be like, yeah, well, all this great news is coming out for Ripple, but nothing's happening in XRP because they don't understand what the hell's going on. It's people that say stupid things like that have no idea, and they would never admit to themselves that they don't understand. When you can say, I don't understand, then you at least provide the opportunity and open your mind to allow answers to flow in. But when you say dumb things like, well, if this doesn't happen, then this must be the outcome, you've created the outcome in your mind already and not allowing new concepts and understandings to happen. Here we are, okay, talking to my favorite thing here. So the velocity of M2 money stock has slowed in 2023 compared to 2022. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, the velocity of money is the frequency at which one unit of currency is used to purchase domestically produced goods and services within a given time period. People are struggling to buy things, out there buying groceries. If this is something that sounds familiar in your life, you understand it. If you have a lot of money and you planned for this, your money might be moving fairly different than somebody else's who's out there struggling, which is like 90% of the globe right now, if not 99% of the globe is out there struggling. A decreasing velocity of M2 might indicate fewer short-term consumption transactions are taking place. In 2022, the velocity of M2 money stock slowed to a stunning 1.123. Furthermore, in 2023, it is mentioned that the velocity has slowed down the growth, at least moderately. This indicates a decline in the velocity of M2 money stock, suggesting a potential slowdown in economic activity. There's wars happening on the east end of the world. They're not buying stuff. Most of them are afraid to go out. We have high inflation globally. If you hadn't prepared for this, your money supply has stopped. Right? You're not going out and buying things. If you've been laid off in your job, your money supply is cut off at that point because that job is struggling to afford that employer or that small mom and pop job where you work at has laid people off. They've closed down. Whatever the case is, there's no money going into them, no money going into you. Your money supply is stopped because you want to save at this point now. So there's no money supply moving because it's now stuck in your pocket, in your bank, under your pillow, under your mattress, wherever you keep it in your safe. It's not moving anywhere at all. So XRP, XLM, XDC to act as intermediaries for swaps is not happening. This motion here is XRP swapping from one thing to another thing, from one thing of value to another thing of value, whether that's real estate, a car, a mobile home, I don't know, water, whatever the case is. Nothing is happening. People are not moving. They're not going out to buy stuff. The banks are doing the same thing. The only place the bank's money is going to is for the government, who says, central banks, I need some more money. Print it for me. And then they'll print it, give it to the government, and the government will say, all right, guys, we're here to support Ukraine, or we're here to support Israel, or we're here to support whatever the newest virtue signaling thing is. And they will send all that money out there against your will, against my will. That's the only money really moving. So again, why should the price of XRP be higher? Ask yourself these things. Ask yourself. Check yourself, fool. Listen to this here, okay? This will give you a good example of the money supply and how it's fallen off a cliff right now.
The money supply is shrinking at the fastest rate since the Great Depression. In fact, peak to trough, it's crashing at the fastest pace since the 1860s. So what does it mean and what comes next? The money supply measures how many dollars are in existence, and it's used to predict inflation. There are different measures of money supply, M0 through M3, each measuring a wider range. So you go from cash to bank accounts to CDs. When people talk about the money supply nowadays, they usually mean M2, which tallies up physical cash, checking and savings accounts, and smaller time deposits, CDs, and money markets. So why does money supply matter? Because printing more money means inflation goes up. You've got more dollars chasing goods, so each dollar buys less. Generally with a delay, since most money is saved. If it's parked in the bank, it may as well be buried in the ground. Until you spend it, at which point it bids up goods, which we call inflation. In fact, throughout history, that's been a danger of inflation. Like a drug, the benefits are immediate, the pain comes later. The government gets to print up $1 trillion, blows it on fast living, and it mostly goes into savings and then only gradually trickles out into spending, at which point you get the inflation. That can take years, during which government invents new excuses. So it was greedy workers that did the inflation, it was greedy companies, it was Vladimir Putin, or it was global warming. And that brings us to today. To finance COVID lockdowns, the Fed printed $6 trillion in fresh money, which sent inflation high enough to scare the Fed. Who knows, inflation makes voters angry enough to put a leash on them. And so starting a year ago, the Fed started reducing the money supply, mainly by letting the assets they had bought with all those trillions expire or roll off. So far, that roll-off has brought M2 down by close to $1 trillion. Now, granted, that's only 1/6 of what they printed, but the problem is historically, economies crash when you actually cut the money. As Chris Irons of Quoth the Raven put it, you can't taper a Ponzi. In fact, the last time money supply did anything close to today was the 1930s, when money contracted by almost 12% in a couple years. The kicker is that while we're only at 4% contraction so far, so that's a third of the Depression, the Fed is promising to keep going by that amount every year, so about $700 billion a year. If so, we are just 2 years away from a depression-level contraction of the money supply. Now, that wouldn't automatically mean a depression. It took FDR's brain-dead socialism to make the Depression truly great. But at that point, we have to ask if Joe Biden is any better. The Fed at this point has painted itself into the biggest Ponzi of its dark history. If it lets M2 ride, inflation keeps going, but if it keeps contracting, it is flirting with the Depression. I fear we could get both. Today's topic was the winner of my weekly Twitter subscriber poll. To join and support the videos, visit my...
I hope that helped you guys visually see what's going on, why the price of these digital assets are not moving. We've gone over Regulation E and how XRP is linked to Regulation E. We've gone over, these are previous videos I've done, so if you haven't done those, please go back and check those out. Like, subscribe, you will get fire content here. This content will help you learn what's going on, teach you what's happening in the crypto industry, teach you why prices are still so low, and what the catalysts are to spark price action, if you will. So, the M0 money supply, this is the base money now. This is the central banking money. This is the taking it home money, the inflation money, okay? When they call for inflation, they're calling for their money back. I'm going to make you guys pay. The ECB says, I want 2%. I want 2% to be near the inflation. I want to stick to the inflation by 2%. We got to get it down. We got to fight inflation. And we got to keep it near 2%. So as the cost of things go up, the inflation is going to follow that by 2%. They're calling that money back. It's like a hidden tax on everybody. So let's see what this has to say. The M0 money supply in the United States has experienced fluctuations. In November 2022, the supply of M2, which includes M0, fell to 21.352 trillion from the peak of 21.740 trillion in March 2022. Additionally, in May 2023, the M2 supply had shrunk from a high of 21.7 in July to 20.8 trillion, representing a 4.1% reduction. So you see the supply of money is reducing, it's contracting, it's falling off a cliff. 4.1% is a huge reduction. Money's not moving anywhere. Nobody's buying anything. Nobody's swapping cross borders, paying high fees. You're not in Africa sending $100 in your African dollars over to the United States and getting, I don't know, $30 out of that, whatever remains after paying the fees to the corresponding banks and the clearinghouses as intermediaries. You're not doing that. It's not worth it, because you still got to pay your family back home or take care of your family back home. Make sure you got fuel and food and everything else you need. No one's doing that. Furthermore, there have been reports of the U.S. money supply falling at its fastest rate since the 1930s. Jack goes back to the video we had just watched, which could have implications for the economy and financial markets. Therefore, the M0 money supply has experienced a slowdown compared to previous periods, as evidenced by the fluctuation in the broader M2 supply. That brings me back to this now. This here. Why isn't XRP, the price of XRP, moving? Why is there no price action happening? Again, who's buying things? Wholesale-wise, who's sending money back and forth? What laws exist? What regulations exist? What legislations were passed based off of the regulations to implement them as laws? None yet. None. So why should the price of XRP move at that point? No one's moving things cross borders. Not everything's tokenized yet. Tokenization's happening now as we speak. Now as we speak. So why should the price of XRP be higher? If you're not here for the long game, why are you here? If you've forgotten your why, remember it. Go back, dig it up. Go back into the back of your cerebral mind there, pull it to the forward, and remember that. Remember why you're here. You don't have to be here right now. If waiting is too much for you, sell and go live your life and don't even worry about what could potentially be in the future. But if you have patience, be here, learn, help the community grow. Each one, teach one. We all have knowledge here. So, what do orange groves have to do with cryptocurrencies? According to the SEC, quite a lot. Their answer gives us a definition of an investment contract and shaped what we consider a modern day security. On May 27, 1946, the Supreme Court ruled the SEC versus W.J. Howey, a case that determined that the sale of units of a citrus grove alongside a contract for cultivating and marketing the fruit was an investment contract, as defined by the Securities Act of 1933. According to the Act, an investment contract is a monetary investment in a common enterprise meant to generate profit from the effort of others. So if you're investing in XRP, hoping that Ripple's news is going to have a price effect on XRP, that would make XRP a security, would it not? But it's not. XRP is not a security based off of what Ripple does. XRP, as we have learned, is not a security. On July 19th, 2023, you were all here with me as we saw this. From day one, Ripple has said the SEC suit against the company was baseless and yet another attempt to regulate crypto through intimidation and enforcement. The court's July 13th decision that the crypto asset XRP is not a security is a landmark ruling. What I'm waiting for now is for the definition to come out and say what it is. I have an idea and concept and theory, but there's no definition that states what XRP is. We know what it's not, all right? So now that we know what it's not, that brings us to this here, Ripple's policy principles. I've gone over this before on this channel. We do our homework. We spend time reading the documents, putting the pieces together, watching the videos. And a lot of people might say these videos are boring. Boring. But you know what? Look how far we are now. Look at our understanding. Look where we're at. We're comparing security to commodity versus money. We're here talking about the Howey Test. We're here learning about M0 base money, M1, M2 supplies. Like this is where we're at now, people. Okay, so this is Ripple's policy principles. One of the things I wanted to show you is this. I had the wrong document open. I pulled the right one up now. So here it is here. A real approach to cryptocurrency regulation. Ripple's vision for how existing financial regulatory frameworks can be used to advance innovation and enhance consumer and market protection. Let me tell you who's leading this charge of things here, okay? These guys are. All right, they have a rule book. They set the guidance. They are the ones leading the charge right now. That's why BG is so cool. Brad Garlinghouse is so cool. That's why DS, David Schwartz, will chat with you up on Twitter or X. He's the CTO of Ripple. But this is what will happen in the end. This is my understanding based off of these policies put forth in 2019, I believe it is. Or is it 2021? Okay. I had a feeling what was going to happen. I had a suspicion what was going to happen before it happened. So here it is here. The Securities Clarity Act, reintroduced on a bipartisan basis by Representative Tom Emmer and Ro Khanna, early this year seeks to address ambiguities in the SEC's application of the Supreme Court's 1946 Howey case to digital tokens issued as part of an investment contract. Specifically, the bill proposes a new term, investment contract asset, and makes clear that such assets should be considered separate and distinct from any securities offering they may have been a part of. That securities offerings for Ripple would be to the institutional investors at that point now, because it was deemed not a security selling to us, the general public. It was deemed a security selling to the institutional investors. So now as we read here, you're seeing what Ripple has guidelined or outlined since 2021. Notice how it comes around full circle, because here we are and we're talking about this thing that came out 2 years ago. That is, digital tokens are not transferred or transformed into securities merely because they may have been issued in connection with an investment contract. Rather, the bill clarifies that these assets are in fact and always were commodities. Boom. All right, let's get this dust off of here. That's how we do it here on this channel. We learn, we go through things, we make the stuff make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, reread it. Sometimes it takes me a long time to reread something just so it makes sense. I might sit there and read a sentence, doesn't make sense. Reread that sentence, doesn't make sense. Reread that sentence. Okay, it doesn't make sense. Read the paragraph afterwards then. Okay, this makes sense. Now incorporate, go back up and reread this with what made sense now to make it make sense. Make things make sense to you. That's why I pull up the videos. That's why I pull up the PDFs. That's why I break it down. That's why I act the way I do. I want you all to understand this, because when it comes time to this, we're going to be in the winner's circle. Guaranteed, hands down. You got one shot at this. Don't mess it up. I'll see you in the winner's circle. Love you all. Till next time.
We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves.